Let's turn this sequence into this one using Adobe Premiere Pro. My name is Aiden Robbins. I'm a travel and documentary filmmaker, and a huge part of that is sound. I want to walk you through the sound design techniques that I used on my most recent project, which is all about volcanoes. So it's very loud. This will be fun. We'll talk about combining sound effects, creating transitions, modifying sound, and some other techniques for getting creative with your sound design. All right, we'll be adding a whole lot of additional sound design in post, but I always start by working with my in-camera audio. If the sound you recorded on location is usable, then just using that can be a lot easier than rebuilding it in post. For example, with these writing shots, I just used the sound of the pen that was recorded in camera rather than replacing it in post. Once I've done that, I can move on to adding additional sound in post, which I divide into 3 categories. Ambient sound, like wind, ocean waves, the volcano's rumbling, detail sound, like explosions or the sound of the projector, and atmospheric sound, like whooshes and bass hits. For each sequence, I'll start with ambient sound, then move on to detail sound, and finally atmospheric sound. Keeping the 3 separate helps me to move quicker and keeps the timeline organized, with my ambient sound up top and everything else below it. Sometimes a single sound effect is the exact one you're looking for, but more often than not, you'll have to combine multiple sounds to create something that feels right. To make the sound of the volcanoes exploding, I combined several sounds. A blowtorch, striking a match, thunder, a landslide. None of those are a volcano, but combine them and you get this. Beyond just selecting the right sounds and combining them, I'm frequently modifying those sounds with audio effects, and there are a few that I use all the time. A low-pass filter cuts out the higher frequencies of your sound, causing it to become lower and kind of sink away into the background. For example, I wanted to create the sound of the ground rumbling when the volcanoes erupted, so I took this landslide sound effect and used a low-pass filter to turn it into a low rumble. Using reverb creates an echoing effect. I used a strong reverb filter on these anvil sound effects to give them a more distant, ghostly feeling. This one isn't quite a filter, but you can also change the speed of your sound effects. I'm constantly speeding up, slowing down, and even reversing sounds. If we go back to those explosion sounds from earlier, most of those sound effects are slowed down to give them a bit more weight. Sound design is an incredible tool for pulling off transitions. Like, here's a transition that almost works, add the right sound design, and it works. If you have a cut that you know should work smoothly, but it just feels a bit off, try adding some sound design. That could be the missing piece. The most simple version of this is called a J-cut, where your audio comes in just a little bit before its corresponding visual. That way the audio essentially indicates to the audience that that cut is coming, making it less jarring. You can even create transitions within your sound design, where one sound smoothly leads into another. With this cut, I tried to get the blowtorch sound of the volcano to transition into the sound of the pen writing. Just click and drag this box on the end of your clip to create a smooth fade in, fade out, or fade between 2 clips. Moving the handle up and down adjusts how intensely that fade ramps in, which you can use to fine-tune a smooth transition. A really fun technique is to work with what I would call implied sound. Sound that isn't pictured in your scene and is more abstract. There's a section of this video about Greek mythology, with the fire god Hephaestus working forges underneath the volcanoes. So I added these hammer, anvil, and sword sound effects in the background, slowed down with low pass and reverb. A practice I've been using more and more recently is bringing sound into pre-production, making notes not just on how I want a video to look, but how I want it to sound. We often look at sound as something that accompanies our visuals, but in reality, it's an equally powerful tool for telling a story. With this project, I want to create the feeling that we're slowly descending into increasingly strange theories and mythologies. So I added a low pass filter to my music and keyframed its intensity. The weirder the theories get, the more muffled and distorted the music becomes. A lot of our footage is shot from a distance where the sound of the explosions took about 4 seconds to reach the camera. The sound design reflects that, which made for some interesting opportunities. Trying to figure out why. I also wanted you to hear the sound coming, almost like a shockwave. The solution ended up being a whoosh sound combined with this earthquake sound, both slowed down with a whole lot of low pass. The result is the feeling of this wave approaching and smacking into the camera. I truly think the best thing you can do for your sound design is approach it not as an extra little detail that accompanies your visuals, but as an entire new set of opportunities for creating atmosphere, creating emotion, and telling a story. Because it is. These techniques are a great starting point to do that, and they're a big part of my process, but they're an absolute drop in the bucket compared to just the number of opportunities and ways you can get creative with sound. So, if you have some sound design tricks up your own sleeve, share them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're doing to get creative with sound. This video was definitely less technical and more conceptual, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.